My parents surprised me with a family trip for my birthday, but when I came down with the suitcases, my sister handed me a list of tasks to do while they went off on their own. So, 3 days ago, I celebrated my 15th birthday, but things didn't go exactly as planned. On the morning of my birthday, my parents came to me very happily and told me they had organized a family trip to the Poco to surprise me. Being the youngest and less important sister, I don't usually get surprises like this, and I was genuinely happy. However, a couple of hours later, after I finished packing and came down with my bags to leave with my family, I saw that my parents had already left, and only my older sister, Alex, who is 17, was waiting for me downstairs. She is the golden child who can always make our parents do exactly what she wants, and this time was no different. She seemed very happy, so I instantly knew something was wrong. When I asked her what was going on, she told me there was no need for me to pack my bags and that I could go back up and unpack. At first, I thought the trip had been canceled completely, but then she told me there wouldn't be a family vacation for me and handed me a paper with a list of chores written on it. I was very confused, and then she told me that my parents and she had decided that although they had surprised me with the trip that morning, they had a discussion about it. Alex thought that since we have our final exams in a couple of weeks, it would be much better for me to stay home and study. She could go because she had already finished with everything. Meanwhile, if I started to get bored without my family while they were at the Poco, I could begin working on the chores that needed to be done around the house. Then she laughed and said that instead of appearing upset, I should really be thankful because she had bought me some time to study and prepare for my finals, instead of wasting my time having fun outside with my family. I was so hurt that I couldn't say anything except ask where our parents were. She told me that she was the one who sent them to the airport and stayed behind to give me this in person because it was her birthday gift to me. She said that my parents wanted me to know they weren't giving me false hopes, but Alex had mentioned my finals, which would be happening a couple of weeks after they surprised both of us with the trip. So, they couldn't ignore it and thought this was best. Apparently, they let Alex tell me because they couldn't bear to break my heart, and I knew that Alex enjoyed and relished the chance to humiliate me. So, I resisted the urge to start crying in front of her and went back upstairs with my bags. I waited until I heard the front door close, and then finally crumbled. For a whole hour, I cried. Alex has always hated me, and I know it. I've also always known that my parents simply do whatever she says without much thought because her word is the holy grail to them. But I couldn't even imagine they would do something so cruel and humiliating to me on my birthday of all days. Alex and I have had our fights before, and my parents have always taken her side, but this was unimaginable. In the morning of my birthday, after my parents told me about the surprise trip, I even texted my friends and told them that I couldn't go out with them in the evening, as I had planned. They were also quite surprised that my parents had organized something like that for me. I guess some things really are too good to be true. But still, I was angry. After I stopped crying, the more I thought about my situation, the worse I felt. So I decided to do something I knew would annoy my parents and Alex to get back at them. Since I was alone at home, I decided to go into my dad's office and make a series of calls from his phone to all the important contacts I found on his MacBook. I invited them to a party in the evening that I had organized for my parents' anniversary. I wanted to surprise them. I know it was a last-minute invitation, but I told everyone I would be really grateful if they could attend. And since I'm just a kid, most of my dad's business partners agreed to come to the party I was organizing. I did the same for my mom, too. None of them protected their devices with passwords and had made the stupid decision to leave everything at home. So it was a piece of cake for me. Then I decided to message Alex's boyfriend on Instagram and told him the same thing, inviting him for the evening. I also invited my friends and helped them prepare the house to look like a party. Finally, around 7 in the evening, the guests I had invited started to arrive, but they were very surprised to see that my parents were nowhere to be found. I told them it was a surprise for the night, so they could figure out what was going on in their own time. Then, once everyone arrived and I took a group picture with all of them, I decided to put my plan into action and told them exactly where my parents were. I explained how they had treated me and how my parents always seemed to think what Alex said was what should be followed. Basically, I was Cinderella, but I had never talked about any of this until today. Then I explained what had happened exactly on my birthday and how my parents just abandoned me and didn't even bother to explain things to me in person, all because Alex thought it was the right thing to do. I saw a lot of people were extremely surprised since my parents put on a good act in front of others of being nice and decent, but I can assure you kind people don't do things like that to their own children. Anyway, once I finished telling them everything that had happened to me, I told them this was exactly why I organized this party, to expose my parents and sister, and if it hadn't ruined things enough for the three of them, I also decided to show them the list of chores Alex had left me. I saw that her boyfriend, who was in the corner of the room, had no idea Alex also had this cruel and inhumane side. Everyone fell silent after I spoke and shared what had happened to me over time. I think people realized it made no sense to stick around, so some left without saying a word, while others bothered to come up and comfort me before leaving. The only thing I felt bad about was making them waste their time. I decided to send the group picture I had taken with everyone who attended the party to my parents and sister with a caption that read, "I had some guests at my birthday party today. I think we're finally going to start on the list Alex left me." It was the perfect plan. After sending that message, they replied within seconds, telling me to fix what I had done immediately and that they were coming home on the next flight. I blocked them all and went to my best friend Fiona's house with my bags because I knew that was no longer my home. Fiona and her parents are really nice people, and they always told me their doors would always be open for me. So I decided to take their offer and move in with them. I don't know how long they can support me, but for now, it's all I have. And I'm very grateful to them for kindly opening their home to me. Anyway, on my birthday, I didn't hear anything from my parents, but the next day they came to Fiona's house. I guess nobody was surprised I chose to stay with Fiona because they knew she and I had been best friends since we were very little. When they came, her parents refused to let them in and said they had no business trying to talk to me when I had made it very clear I wasn't interested in speaking to them about anything. But my parents started threatening to take legal action against Fiona's parents, and I got a bit scared, so I told them to let them in and that I would be ready to talk to them. They were furious with me and said no matter what they had done, I had no right to involve their business partners in this because now their whole reputation was ruined and none of their peers or associates were willing to even speak to them. Some of them even blocked my mom and dad, and they blamed me for all of this, which I guess is fair because I orchestrated it all, but I also told them that if they had just shown me a bit of kindness and hadn't completely humiliated me with that trick on my birthday, I wouldn't have done any of this. I ended up yelling at them forever for always treating me poorly compared to Alex and told them that she, along with my parents, had ruined my life and that I would never forgive them for that. The argument escalated a lot, and we were all yelling at each other so much that Fiona's parents had to intervene, and Fiona had to pull me out of the room to calm me down. When I finally calmed down, her parents came to me and said that my parents had left and that they would make sure they could never talk to me until I was ready to face them face to face. They then suggested that I should really consider a legal remedy like emancipation from my parents because it had become clearer and clearer that they couldn't care less about me, and it was time for me to cut them out of my life for good. So after discussing this with Fiona's parents, I decided to talk to a lawyer, and now we are pursuing emancipation. I'm still very confused about it because it's a huge decision, and I don't want to regret anything in the future. But honestly, with how fast things are moving, I don't think I will because yesterday my parents contacted me again against my will. Last night I received an email, and I knew by the address it was from my parents. I really tried not to open it, but curiosity got the better of me, and I ended up reading it. Basically, they started by saying the reason they even surprised me with that trip was that one of my dad's clients had opened a new spa resort at the Poco. This was a benefit for my dad, and the family decided to take advantage of this opportunity around the same time as my birthday. But when Alex mentioned my finals, they didn't want my grades to drop just because I had gone on vacation with them just weeks before my exams. They couldn't believe I had misinterpreted it as something ugly and tried to get back at them for it. This only made them feel like they hadn't raised me correctly. Alex herself was upset and just wanted to be a good big sister worried about me, so there was no need for me to overreact in the way I did. It was all a bunch of nonsense, and I felt really upset. So I almost stopped reading the email halfway through, but then the second half was about how upset they were because I involved other people in our family drama and aired our disputes in public, something they never wanted or expected to happen. They said that despite how many fights we had, I never came to them to directly tell them exactly what my problems were with my parents, so they could never work on it. They claimed that if I had just talked to them once and discussed my feelings, maybe they could have fixed things with me. But instead, I took such a drastic measure. They claimed the list of chores Alex had left me was a bit excessive, but I still should have called them afterward and confronted them about it. They would have come back immediately if they knew I felt excluded and neglected. However, the way I chose to handle the situation was really unexpected, and they felt bad for everything because apparently they genuinely didn't want to hurt me, and this was just an unfortunate misunderstanding that got magnified. They want me to talk and resolve things, but I don't know what I want to do right now. I'm so confused about it, so please help me. Am I the bad one for organizing a party and exposing my parents in front of all their peers and business associates after they excluded me while going on vacation? Update 1. Well, most of you think what I did was completely fine and that they deserved it, and that there's nothing I need to apologize for. So I have decided that I am not going to apologize. I blocked the email address they sent me that email from, so they cannot contact me again. I know they can just create another one and keep trying to contact me, but I will keep blocking it. I have made a decision. Whatever they try to tell me, I simply will not respond or even try to read it. It's not worth it. All it will do is confuse me even more. As for emancipation, I have decided to go forward with it. It's a big step and I know I'm still too young, but Fiona and her parents have assured me that no matter what, they will be by my side, and I have nothing to worry about. They've even told me they might legally adopt me if that makes me feel less nervous, and I think that could be a good idea, but I haven't really thought about it. For now, we are just focusing on the emancipation. We've spoken with a lawyer, and the paperwork is in process. Right now, I truly don't know how my parents will react to this, because when they emailed me, I could tell they weren't happy about me choosing to live with Fiona and her parents. For now, it doesn't even make sense to me because from how they have treated me my whole life, it has become very obvious they really don't want me that much, at least not in their home as much as they want Alex around them. That's very evident to me. Yet, they are still trying to communicate with me, which is very confusing for me. I have a feeling they just wanted me to return because they wanted to fix their reputation and image, nothing more. For now, all I can do is wait for them to receive the documents and see how they react. It's been a couple of days since my post, and they haven't tried to contact me again since that email, so I don't know what they're feeling right now. I know things can't be good for them either because there were so many people at the party I invited, and I've heard that Alex and her boyfriend broke up, but nobody knows the reason except me, of course. Update 2. A few days ago, my parents finally received the documents for my legal emancipation, and they weren't happy about it, which was quite surprising to me. They called Fiona's parents, and there was a huge fight because apparently they believed Fiona and her parents had coerced me into this and were controlling me. They didn't believe I was doing this of my own will, which didn't make sense to me because they realize how poorly they've treated me in the past. Of course, I was doing this of my own will. I started anticipating this kind of reaction from them after my last update since many of you told me they were doing exactly what I thought. They just wanted me back to show everyone we were a happy family and that everything I said at the party was just a tantrum of mine, but I didn't go back to them. And that's what really infuriated them, the fact that I'm finally standing up to them. They can't stand it. Well, too bad because it's happening. They can call Fiona's parents all they want, but it won't change the fact that they deserve this. They do not deserve to be my parents, and now I'm finally going to be free from them. I couldn't hear much, but Fiona told me that apparently my parents called her parents every name possible and told them they would fight and take this to court if necessary because they had no right to induce all this nonsense and that they weren't going to tolerate it. They were quite angry and even threatened to hurt them, which seemed crazy to me because I hope they realize that it's not legal and only makes it worse. The way they talked about Fiona's parents about me only reiterated what I already believed about them. They didn't want me back because they loved me as a daughter, but rather because they wanted to fix their image in front of others. Not once did they say they wanted to talk to me or that they wanted me back. They just kept saying they knew Fiona's parents wanted to ruin their reputation by acting as saviors for me and trying to show the world I had been mistreated in my own home, but they wouldn't allow it. Apparently, they yelled on the phone that I was a spoiled and pampered child, and the fact that Fiona and her parents supported me only meant they were not fit to be parents. I'm pretty sure if they actually loved me like a daughter, they would have been more concerned about my well-being and would have tried to talk to me instead of yelling at Fiona's parents and implying they were trying to ruin my parents' reputation. Why would they even want to do that? Fiona's parents haven't known my parents for long. They have only known each other through us, so there's no reason to be competing against them. Besides, there's no competition since Fiona's parents are much more successful in life and also much kinder and compassionate. But my parents are so worried about the so-called image that they think Fiona's parents are just like them and are incapable of thinking about me and are only trying to sink them. I wish I could tell my parents that they aren't pretending to be my saviors by trying to help me here. They are truly my saviors because it's from them that I needed to be saved. If only they had understood that from the start, they would have been regretful for everything they had done instead of trying to provoke more drama. But Fiona and her parents have given me strict instructions not to communicate with them, no matter how tempted I feel, because it's not worth it. I know they received my parents' phone call a few days ago, and after fighting with them on the phone and only giving me the details they thought were necessary for me to know, they told me they had recorded the phone call. My parents were really stupid because they could use it as evidence of why I deserved to be emancipated from them. They also told me they wanted me to think about whether I wanted to be adopted legally or not, and I ended up saying yes since I really like them. I also know this is going to infuriate my parents even more, but that's not really the reason. Mostly it's because I truly feel they are extremely kind and lovely people, and having Fiona as my sister is going to be a bonus. So I completely agree. I have been told they are going to talk to the lawyer again to start the paperwork for that as well, since it could also help with my emancipation case, knowing that I have better people to trust and live with. Sincerely, this just keeps getting better and I couldn't be more grateful to them. Update 3. Today something terrible happened. To sum up the story, Alex hit me after school. My last English class was taking place in the east wing of the school, and when I came out of class, she and a group of her friends literally cornered me. Unfortunately, I'm always the last to leave class because I'm very slow to pack my things, and by the time I came out, most people had already left. When I saw Alex and her friends waiting for me outside, I felt a little intimidated, but I didn't let it show because that would only give them satisfaction. Anyway, when I started to leave the classroom, they approached me and said I was not allowed to leave. They made everyone else who was lingering in the class go out and told me they had some unfinished business with me. I tried to stay calm and keep my head clear so my fear wouldn't show on my face, but it seemed like they didn't care. Alex grabbed my arm and pulled me outside while I yelled at her to let me go, but everyone else was making noise and no one could hear me. Then they took me to the janitor's closet and locked me inside after shoving me hard. I kept banging on the door, but they were outside, and I think even if they heard me, they wouldn't dare do anything because Alex and her friends are in higher grades and have a nasty reputation. After leaving me there for almost 5 minutes, Alex allowed me to come out, and by then, practically everyone in that wing of the school had already left. It was me against them. It was then that she slapped me in the face for the first time and started yelling at me. She called me selfish and said I was ungrateful to our parents. Then came the real reason she was so angry. She started accusing me of being the reason her boyfriend broke up with her. Then she slammed my head against the concrete, and that's when I started to feel really dizzy. She took advantage of that and kept hitting me with her fists while her friends watched and laughed. It was extremely painful, and I tried to defend myself, but Alex was several inches taller than me and much heavier, so there wasn't much I could do at one point. I literally started to curl up against the wall, and she kept hitting me. Once she felt satisfied, she gave me one last kick, and then she and her friends left while I cried against the wall. About 15 minutes later, Fiona finally found me sitting on the floor, crying very badly. When I told her what had happened, she helped me get up, and instead of walking home together, we decided to take a taxi because I wasn't in any condition to walk. Once we got home, I told her parents everything, and they looked quite grim. They immediately contacted the school and then the police. It's only been an hour since then, and they have been talking on the phone the whole time, so they are quite busy. But Fiona is taking care of me because I'm pretty beaten up. The bruises are just starting to show, and everything hurts. But I know that Alex will get her karma for this, and it will come soon. There are many things I want to talk about, so I will try to be brief and concise. Last week, Alex hit me, but fortunately, the school intervened on my behalf. They shared the security footage from that wing of the building with the police, so it was pretty easy to charge her with a misdemeanor. She received community service to make up for it, but the best part is that she was suspended for the next 6 weeks. That means she won't be able to attend the prom, something she was really looking forward to. She also won't be able to take her final exams with the rest of her class. She will have to do them separately. So she won't be able to cheat. I think she deserves it, and I felt quite vindicated when Fiona told me all this. Another great thing that happened was that after all the trouble with Alex, my parents decided to give up their rights. Yes, they ended their parental rights over me, and all the paperwork is signed. So I'm finally free. Fiona's parents are in the process of legally adopting me, so I couldn't be more grateful to them for that. My parents said that after everything that happened, they didn't want me in their family. I know they will try to make it seem like it's my fault, but I don't think anyone will believe them, so they can try their best. Anyway, I don't care. To be honest, now I am finally part of a happy family, and I can assure you that my new sister and my new parents are going to be much better than the ones I originally had. I really can't believe things are finally turning out well for me, and I'm probably the happiest I've been in a long time. I was so excited that I almost forgot I have finals coming up. Update 4. It's been a few months since I updated here, but now that we are on summer break and I have more free time, I can update you on things that have happened. The good news for me is that I did well on my exams despite everything, so that's a big win for me. I could have failed at least some, but even though I didn't get the best grades, at least I passed them. I haven't crossed paths with my sister since she was suspended, so I could focus on my studies and not on whether she would attack me again. I agree with some comments that Alex had it pretty easy with everything she did, but there's not much else I can do other than call the police. If justice only gave her community service, it's because maybe it doesn't work that well. Maybe it's a message from the universe telling me I need to study to change that. Although it's not that I enjoy the legal branch. As for my parents, I haven't heard anything from them during this whole time, and that's okay. Fiona's parents are still continuing the adoption process, which is a bit slow, but I guess it will be finished soon. Update 5. I'm making this update because I've gone back to school for a couple of months after having summer with my new family. Yes, I have been adopted, so they are my new family and the only one I have. The paperwork arrived last week, so I took the opportunity to update you. But the good news is that Alex hasn't returned to school. My parents moved after everything that happened and took their precious daughter with them, so I don't have to worry about running into Alex in the hallways. As for her friends, I've seen them, but they haven't done anything or said anything to me, so I'm fine with that.